Hey, today we're going to see how to create self-hosted AI voice agents, and we're going to be using Kallflow, that it's basically a self-hosted platform that lets you create self-hostable voice agents, okay? We're going to see how to set up the AI inference services that you may want to use, for example, DeepGram, OpenAI, Google, whatever, okay? How to set up telephony, how to create an agent, and how to monitor the agent to see what it goes wrong, what we can do about it, and so on, okay? To be able to increase the reliability of the agent. And you'll have the website of Kallflow down below in the description. You can test it out here if you want. It resets every 15 minutes. This is a public demo, so I wouldn't recommend up any API keys or anything like that, okay? So yeah, you can just demo. You just can log in into the panel, click around, see how it looks, how it is. And in case that you are somewhat convinced and you want to test it out much more extensively to see if it's for you, you can request a 7-day trial here. Right, so let's start with installation itself. First, you'll have this installation guide in docs.kallflow.com, as you can see here, and it just tells you that you have to have 3 different subdomains set up in the DNS records of your domain. Okay, first, the dashboard is basically going to point to the dashboard itself of Kallflow. You can actually set whatever you want here. Instead of dashboard, you can set kallflow.yourdomain.com. Doesn't matter. Okay, and it has to be pointing at the IP address of the server that you are going to use to install Kallflow. Okay, it should be a fresh Ubuntu or Debian servers. However, it is also compatible with other Linux distributions. Okay, and the type must be A. Actually, the 3 of them are A type, okay? Then RTC server, this is just going to be the subdomain for LiveKit, because Kallflow uses LiveKit underneath, completely self-hosted, okay? It doesn't use LiveKit Cloud. It automatically installs LiveKit and it uses LiveKit down below. Okay, and then this one has to be auth. Okay, instead of these 2 can be whatever you want, the name of the subdomains, but this has to be auth. Okay, and pointing to the same IP address. Okay, these 3 IP addresses must be the same because everything will be installed in the same server. Okay, you'll probably have to wait until these 3 subdomains are reachable from the internet. You can use these commands to test if they are reachable, and once they are reachable, you can start with the installation itself. So please first go to the billing portal, download the installer, and then upload the installer into the root folder of your server and run these 2 commands. Okay, and they are just going to ask you for 3 things. First, enter the domain for the control panel. This subdomain that you have set up beforehand. This is the RTC server. So yeah, this subdomain. Then it's going to ask for an email for the SSL certificates. And it's also going to be, this email is also going to be used to create the admin user. Okay, just keep that in mind. And also it's going to ask you whether you have created this auth subdomain or not. You'll just have to say yes. Okay, and that's going to be it. Then it's going to take a couple of minutes and it's going to tell you the login credentials. Okay, awesome. So once you are inside the installation, you will be able to start it. First, you'll have to add your license key here that you'll be able to get it from the billing portal. Okay, activate it. It's going to ask for your license key and your email. That's it. Okay, and yeah, now we can start setting up everything. We have to go here in AI services. In case that you want to query the API endpoints of your installation, you'll have to get this Kallflow API key, just view it and copy it. And yeah, here you can start setting up Google API credentials, Google Cloud, or Vertex credentials, OpenAI, Anthropic, AWS, and a lot of other providers, okay? In case that you do not have specific plugin installed, because here we're using Kit plugins for Anthropic, AWS based, and so on, you'll have to just click install and it's going to start installing. Probably it's going to restart the backend, okay? So don't worry if half a minute the software does not work or says error 502, don't worry about it, okay? It's just restarting the backend component, okay? The backend container. And you'll be able to set up the API keys and all of this, okay? In case that of Olama that currently it is being implemented, you'll be able to set up the base URL. This is, well, basically going to be bring the models that you have installed in your Olama installation, and it's just going to be using that, okay? This Kallflow does not auto install Olama. You have to have Olama already installed in the same server or in another server, doesn't matter. Great, so this is how you set up the different AI services, okay? Then for telephony, I'm actually using Telnix, okay, but you can use whatever SIP provider and phone provider that you want. It is compatible with all of them. So yeah, you'll have to have your account verified and whatever your provider asks for. And yeah, I'm just going to go to the zip trunk that I have created. I'm just going to skip this configuration part, as probably it will be different for each of the different providers, okay? So I'm just trying to go as global as possible, as generalistic as possible, instead of just telling you how to set up Telnix. Okay. Yeah, you have to create an FQDN record in the port 5060 with DNS record type A, and the URL that you have to set up is the rtc.yourdomain.com, okay, in case that you have set up the subdomains exactly like how the documentations tell you to set up, okay. This is basically going to be pointing at the LiveKit self-hosted installation, okay. And yeah, just select the primary FQDN. This doesn't really matter. Subdomain, I haven't seen that it matters. And then for outbound calls, set up credentials, okay. I'm not going to be showing you, but it's basically a user and a password, okay. And then for inbound, I have set up this destination number format and origination number format. The SIP transfer protocol, you should be selecting UDP or TCP, doesn't matter, and the right region for your case. And in case that you're using Telnix, I have set up, well, I have just selected these two codecs, okay. So yeah, you can select it if just in case, okay. Then select, well, finished setting up everything else, and select the phone number that is connected to this SIP trunk, okay. Once you have set up everything, your SIP provider, just come here to SIP trunks and create a new inbound trunk and a new outbound trunk, okay? So yeah, just create a new inbound trunk. Well, sorry. First, you have to set up a phone number, okay? In case I have already, actually I have already set up one, but just for the phone number. Do not enter the country code, okay? Just enter the actual phone number and then select the country here, okay? And yeah, select save. I don't know, I'm going to be setting up this number in Algeria. Save. And I have already set it up, okay? Then go back to SIP trunks, create a new inbound trunk, enter the trunk name. It doesn't really matter, whatever you set here, it's just you to be able to identify the SIP trunk. Select an associated number. Since I have already selected that phone number for a SIP trunk, doesn't allow me to select another one, but yeah, it should be appearing something like this, like the phone number appearing here, and that's it, okay? And then set up the allowed IP addresses in case that you want to be listing some traffic. However, if you do not want to be entering traffic, just leave it as it is, okay? For outbound trunk, it's something similar, okay? Set up a name. Here in address, it will depend on the provider. For Telnix, it's going to be sip.telnix.com. Select the phone number, then set up the auth username and the auth password, okay? Those are the ones that I haven't shown you in Telnix, of course, but these are the ones that you have to set up, and select the transport, okay? Currently, you should be selecting UDP or TCP, okay? Less support is work in progress currently. So yeah, just set up this, and telephony is going to be set up, okay? Some of you may be wondering, how am I going to be able to connect a phone number to an agent? How this, zip trunks get connected to agents. How does it work? Well, if you don't know about LiveKit, basically syncs a phone number to an AI voice agent with the zip dispatch rules. Okay, so the way you have to be syncing up, as we have already done, linking it to an agent. Okay, however, these dispatch rules, you shouldn't be touching them manually. Okay, this is just for more advanced users that want to keep control of everything, but these dispatch rules are going to be created dynamically and automatically. Okay, Kallflows manage them. Kallflows create automatically these dispatch rules, so don't worry about it. Great. So let's start with the actual use, that it's how to create an AI voice agent. And we're also going to be looking at Kallflows. Okay. So first, create a new agent, set a name. I'm just going to be setting tutorial Kallflow Quickstart. Really, the only mode available is separate STT, LLM, TTS. However, real-time models are going to be coming pretty soon. Okay, so yeah, now select a provider for the STT. That is basically going to be the listening component, one that it's going to be transcribing everything that the user says. Thinking it's the LLM, and speaking is the TTS. Okay, the one that transforms text to speech. Great. So you have to have the different providers that you want to be using installed, okay, here in settings, as I've shown you before. And also currently the providers available for the STT are these ones, okay? For the LLM are these ones, and for the TTS are these ones here, okay? So yeah, these are the most popular providers for STT, LLM, and TTS. Yeah, these providers were marked as much more important to add compared to the other ones, and adding each of these is quite a lot of work, so that's why currently they are not implemented, all of them, okay? I typically use DeepGram for the STT. For the LLM, I typically use OpenAI. You could be using Azure OpenAI in case that you want to be compliant with the GDPR regulation and so on, because you have to, well, you can collect. You could also be selecting Azure OpenAI in case that you are worried about GDPR compliance, because you can select the region in Azure OpenAI, okay, to be inside of the EU. So yeah, that's been some of the worries of some customers, so that's why I'm just telling you about that. And as I've said, this Olama integration is pretty soon to be completely added, okay? But yeah, then select the model. You can also select the model here for the STT, and the TTS is the component that has the more variety, because it's it's one of the most important components. The LLM, it's pretty important too, of course, and the STT, yeah, everything is important, but probably the most important one, and that could be making the more difference, is the TTS, because it's how the agent is sounding, if it sounds natural, it sounds realistic, and so on. TTS, it's going to play a huge role here, okay? So you have Cortesia available, 11 Labs, OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, Azure Speech, Google Cloud, Gemini, and DeepGram, okay? You can select the model, the language. In this case, for Aura, there is only English available, but for Aura 2, you have all these languages, okay? And of course, if you then go to Google Cloud, you'll have a lot more languages available. It just depends on the provider and the model, okay? And then in voice, you'll be able to select a voice of the model or the provider, okay? This language is also going to be set in the LLM and the STT, okay? So that all the components are actually transcribing and thinking in the same language that it's speaking, okay? And in case that you want to keep track of the cost of the different components, you can set a provider cost here, dollar per minute, dollar per second, dollar per hour, dollar per million tokens, per 1K tokens, and so on, okay? This is going to be then showing up in clients, okay, that you can also use for keeping track of costs of the different departments in case that you are a company that you have different departments. So yeah, you then can set up an N8N MCP server here, connect a knowledge base system that you may have already created. Currently, there is no native rack system or no native knowledge base system because the early users and the other clients actually already had a knowledge base system set up in one of their servers. So adding a native knowledge base didn't really make sense. The users would have to export everything and then import it into the system. It was just adding friction in the system. Okay, so that's why there are 4 providers, templates, and then you have the custom API in case that you want to be setting up any other rack system here. Okay, well, connecting any other rack system. Then you can set up, well, you can select an ambient sound that is basically going to be sound that it's playing in the background, thinking sounds that are basically sounds that are played whenever the agent uses a tool. Okay, for example, a keyboard typing. Okay, select the time zone, and then in advanced options you can set up the turn detection and the VAD. Okay, these two are well, to determine if the turn of a user has finished, if the user has finished talking, and the agent can start talking. That's pretty much it. So, but it's just basically going to detect depending on the sound, the energy of the sound, the decibels, and so on. And turn detection is a mini AI model that it's analyzing the message of the user, and it's determining semantically if the user has finished talking. You have, well, different parameters here, and yeah, it basically explains what it does. It's pretty technical, so if you want to go slower and take a look at everything, of course, do so. Okay. Then some more latency optimization. I would just recommend to leave everything enabled. So you can enable or disable debug logs. Disabling debug logs may lower the latency a little bit. However, you're going to lose a lot of information, so I wouldn't recommend doing so. Okay, timeout and cost protection. This is also a couple of other settings to protect you against issues or bad actors. Okay, here you can set the max duration for the call. Maximum can be a 5-minute call. Well, if the user remains 60 seconds completely silent, the agent is going to be hanging up the call. And if the user remains 8 seconds silent, it is going to warn the user. Okay, so yeah, you can obviously change this amount of seconds, the message, and so on. And yeah, human transfer settings. This is the message that it's going to be saying in case that a human agent returns the call to this agent, because you can set up that the agent transfer the call to a human, and then the human with a combination of the keypad can return the call to the AI agent. So this is the message that you will, well, that the agent is going to be saying whenever it comes from a human call. Okay, and yeah, the resource limits. This is the amount of memory and CPU that it's going to be allocated to the Docker container of the agent, because every time that you start an agent, a Docker container is being created dynamically, and it just sets these limits. You can increase the limits. By default, it's 1 CPU core and 2 gigabytes of RAM. And this is with token limits and conversation budgets for larger conversations. You can enable conversation budget, auto summarize, okay, with some of these settings. So this is how you can create an agent. Well, actually, I have completely forgot about the system prompt. You can set up the system prompt here and the first message. However, now I'm going to be talking about Kallflows, and you can set up a first message in Kallflows too, okay? I actually prefer setting up the message. However, there may be sometimes that you need an agent without a call flow or with a basic call flow. So maybe you just want to set up a first message here. Okay, that's you can do so. And in case that you set up a first message here and then a first message in the Kallflow, this is going to have much more weight over the first message in Kallflow. Okay, so the agent is going to first say this first message and then continue with the first message in the Kallflow. Great. Then in tools, you can create custom HTTP tools, and you can also customize the native agent tools that Kallflow adds to the AI voice agents by default. Okay. So yeah, you can turn on and call or turn it off, transfer to human, set up the transfer basically to the different departments, because you have here a human agents section. Okay, I'm not going to be showing you that now in this video because otherwise it's just going to be 2 hours long. But yeah, and it's already pretty long. So yeah, I'll try to be a little bit quicker. So yeah, you have everything here to be set up. A custom tool, it's basically an HTTP call. Okay, as you can see, the URL, parameters, the authentication, testing the tool just to make sure that it works. And then in security, but currently there is only one option, that it's bot detection. Maybe you will be receiving calls from bots that are going to be saying the exact same thing over and over again. This just detects this behavior and hang up the call automatically. Okay. Also, you can export the configuration in case that you want. It's going to be exported into a JSON. You can also import the configuration. This is, I think, pretty important for the copy LLM instructions. You can copy these LLM instructions, paste these LLM instructions into Claude, ChatGPT, Claude Code, whatever you use, and it's going to be generating a JSON file, JSON code that you can then copy into a file, save it, and import the JSON file. Okay, so that you can automatically generate agents. This is the same for Kallflows. We're going to be seeing that now. Okay, and you can also paste the configuration and copy the configuration in case that you want to be copying this configuration, creating another agent, and pasting the configuration with just some items of the configuration instead of everything. Okay, just to show you, I'm going to copy this now and going into another paste configuration, and you'll be able to select what you want to be pasting. Probably you'll want to paste everything, but if I would only want to be pasting the basic info, I would just be leaving this selected and paste. Okay, that's pretty much it. And in case that you are editing an agent instead of creating an agent, you'll also have this version history here. In case that you would have different versions, you would be able to respond to previous versions. Okay, great. And you can also organize these agents into different folders in case that you have a long list of agents. Also, in this table, you'll be able to, edit it, start it, see if it's initializing or started or whatever. Okay, a colleague is currently working on this same installation while I do the video. This is why it's appearing this other. Don't take those into account. Okay, of course, if you encounter any issues, a message this is going to be appearing here, and you'll be able to go into the logs and see what are the errors, copy the logs, refresh, everything like this. Okay, and also you can embed these agents into your app or into your website. Okay, you have a lot of options here to customize. You can select a logo or upload a custom logo. You also have a GDPR consent dialog. By default, it's enabled, but you can disable it. Okay, and yeah, you have a lot of customization options. And then it's going to generate a pop-up script embed that you can copy and paste into the code, okay, of your website or your app. And then in these 3 dots, you'll have the duplicate option, the code option. You can see the code of the agent, okay, in case that you want to be copying it, extracting the code, whatever, or just editing the code. And you can also delete the agent, of course. Okay, here in Healthy, you can also see how it is going. Okay, the usage of the user, the agent, the uptime, reliability, the total restarts, crashes, last crash, and so on. Okay, and you can also monitor the server here in this server section. Okay, diagnostics and so on. Okay. not going over this. However, I'm not going over this currently because we have to hop onto Kallflows, okay? So the way that I would recommend setting this up, for example, let's imagine that I'm setting up this testing or not, creating a new one, tutorial, Quickstart, save, and I'm going to be using this agent here, okay? So I'm going to create a new Kallflow, tutorial, Quickstart, create, and by default, these two nodes are present, the trigger and the end call node, okay? So first, double click here and set up the call type that you want the Kallflow to be triggered with, okay? A web call or a phone call. You can actually set up 2 or more triggers in case that you want, okay? For example, I could be setting up that this Kallflow is triggered with a call type web and a phone call, okay? Double click here, phone, inbound or outbound, and select the zip trunk that we have created, okay? You are required to have already created a zip trunk. I'm going to be selecting this. And now you'll have to connect an agent, okay? So just connect this to the connect agent node, double click connect agent and select an agent. In case I'm going to be selecting the tutorial Quickstart, you can change the name of the node if you want, okay? And this transfer message, do not worry about it right now because this transfer message is just to transfer the call from one AI agent to another AI agent, okay? Because this connect agent node is not only being used whenever you want to connect an agent at the beginning of the call, but also in case that you want to do a transfer to another AI agent, okay? But yeah, then you have the conversation node. This is the way that you can set up a first message that I was talking about inside of Kallflow, inside of the Kallflows, okay? So yeah, here in conversation, you can select literal mode and it's literally going to say whatever you set here. And the guide mode, it's going to be using the LLM component of the agent to think the message, okay? So every time it's going to be different. Then you can basically set it like say immediately and wait for user response. I would normally recommend to leave this selected. And then here you can set up a next step condition, okay? So basically this Kallflows allows you to control how the call should go, okay? How it should be flowing, how the conversation should be flowing, okay? So in order to control that actually the conversation going where you actually want, you have to set up a next step condition, okay? So for example, let's imagine that here I'm just saying hi, or well, I'm probably actually let's set it to literal mode. Hi, how can I help you? And basically user responded. The next step condition could be user responded, okay? Doesn't matter what the user responded, or there are a lot of others pre-built conditions, and you can also set custom conditions with custom condition, okay? That is going to be using AI, because these pre-built conditions are just going to be checking the it's going to be checking keywords, okay? For example, in user confirmed, it's going to be checking if the last message does have any of these keywords. You can add keywords here, and of course you can do groups of conditions and or concatenate or add more conditions, okay? For example, we can have user confirmed or agreed, and we can have user asked to repeat, okay? Or and then, okay, if this is not true, then it's going to be trying to tell if this is true or not, okay? You can also set groups of conditions, as you can see, and yeah, okay? So the agent is just going to be trying to guide the conversation towards so that these next step conditions or combinations of conditions are true, okay? So just leaving it much simpler, if we set it to user confirmed / agreed, and yeah, the agent says, hi, how can I help help you, and the user says, I'm sad, whatever. Then the agent is going to naturally guide the conversation so that the user says one of these words. Okay, great. Now we have the route node that is basically conditionals. Okay, you can set up as many routes as you want, as you can see. Then we have the extract value node that it's basically going to be extracting a variable. For example, customer underscore name, the description, customer full name. This is going to be extracting the information from the transcription, okay, from the live transcription. And then we can select the type of the variable, a string, a number, a decimal, a boolean, date time. In case that we have date time or date, we can set an output format in case that we want to be sending the information over HTTP node, if we want to be connecting this to a tool in N8N, for example. And also we have retry once in case that it is not correct, and store raw. Okay, awesome. In this case, it just makes sense to leave it as string. Okay, great. Going to connect this to here. I'm going to save. And for example, we could be sending this information over an HTTP request. We have all of the variables that have been extracted from the past here. So we can just drag and drop, as you can see. We can add parameters and set customer name and drag and drop the variable here. Wait until completed, return the response to AI, and test the request in case that we want. And in case that we get some response from the HTTP, for example, let's imagine that it responds with a variable, then we'll be able to use that same variable in the other nodes that comes after the HTTP node. Okay, so currently I'm just able to use the customer name extracted from here. However, if this HTTP node would be returning variables, they would be appearing here. Okay, both the extract value variable, the extracted variables, and also the variables returned by the HTTP node. Okay, so yeah, we can then use it in these other nodes. Then we have the transfer to human. Okay, this transfer call node, it's just to transfer the call to a human. As I've said, in case that you want to be transferring the call to another agent, just select another agent and transfer and set a transfer message. One moment, I'm transferring and transferring. Okay, and yeah, if you connect this, the current agent, it's going to say one moment, I'm transferring, and then it's going to disconnect from the call. This agent is going to be connecting to the call and it's going to continue. Okay, that's pretty much it. However, if you want to be transferring the call to a human, you have to use this transfer call node. Select a transfer mode. We have the manual where you can select the human agent that you have set up in this section here. Okay, in human agents, or you can set department that it's just going to be using a round robin method that it's basically trying to call each of the agents. Okay, first it's going to try with one agent. If that human agent does not take the call, it's going to try with another one, and yeah, over and over. However, if it reaches the end and no agent has been connected, it's going to start over from the beginning. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. In case that you set a department, you can set the ring timeout. Okay, if it takes more than 20 seconds to hand off the call to a human agent, it's just going to stop trying. Okay, you can select the department here, and that's it. For manual mode, you can select the human agent that you want it to be transferred to. Okay, or you can set a phone number, override with a phone number here. Also, I would recommend you to do a warm transfer. This basically means that the agent is going to be calling the human agent, and it's going to be summarizing the call, or it's going to say, hey, I have a user or a customer that wants to talk with a human agent because they need a refund. Okay, whatever. So yeah, you can set a hold message. Please wait while I transfer you to a human agent. This is going to be the AI agent telling the user, okay, the timeout, and also you can play hold music while waiting. Okay, a nice touch. Then, in case that you have set up SMTP credentials in settings, preferences, and email configuration. You have to set this up here. In case that you have set this up, you'll be able to use the send email node, that it's just sending an email. That's it. Pretty self-explanatory thing. And schedule callback. This is another node to basically schedule a callback. You'll be able to see all the callbacks scheduled here, pending, in progress, and done. And the agent is just going to be scheduling a callback that is going to happen whenever the agent has scheduled it to happen, of course. Okay. You have to select a call flow that it should be following, that the callback should be following. Just set up a call flow specifically for callbacks. Select an outbound trunk and select the scheduling mode: instant, after delay, preferred window, or agent decides. Okay. And I would highly recommend you to include the conversation context so that the agent that carries out the callback knows what the user talked with the agent. Okay, so for example, let's imagine that a user calls the AI agent and tells it something, tells it X. Okay, and then it says that it wants that he wants to be talking in 30 minutes. So the agent schedules a callback for in 30 minutes to call the human. And the agent in the callback, it's going to know what was talked about 30 minutes ago in the other call. Okay, I hope that I have explained it clearly. And then recording consent, this is a node that basically it's going to be asking the human for recording consent in case that you want to be recording the calls. Okay, in many US states and in Europe also, it is mandatory to be saying that the call is being recorded, or that to ask for consent for the call to be recorded. It just in the green one, the green node, it's basically if the human accepts recording or if it denies. Okay, it's just going to start recording in case that it accepts, or do not record at all in case that it denies, the human denies. Okay. This recording setting can also be controlled through this thing here, okay? And you can enable recording. However, if the user does not approve the recording, it's going to be overridden and it's not going to be recording, even though you have enabled that in the gear, okay, in that other option dialog, okay? So this has preference over that. It just makes sense, okay? Here you have all of the other options: export JSON, import JSON, pretty much the same options that I talked about in agents. And then copy LLM instructions. You can generate call flows with LLMs. Version history, you can restore, and you can also export an image in case that you need to, okay? If you want to automatically sort out everything, you have this option here, and it's going to be sorting out this. And also, by the way, in Encall, you can enable the hang up tool or a possibility, and enable post-call evaluation. I would highly recommend you to do that, because it's just going to analyze the calls, it's going to be gathering insights, it's going also to be telling you what you can do to improve the agent. Okay. For example, let's set a quick call, okay, and a really easy call, just with user has responded, and call, hope that it works. Google the model. This one doesn't really matter if it's good or not. Well, 2.5 flash. Okay. Evaluation language. You can also set a custom evaluation instruction here. Post-call extract variables in case that you want to be extracting variable from these. Call and reasons. It's going to be basically storing the different reasons of the call ending, and it's also going to be analyzing analyzing why these reasons. Okay, so it's just not going to tell you the user hang up, it's also going to analyze why the user hanged up. Okay? You can also set this information, the post-call evaluation information, over webhook or over email. Okay, you have to set up the SMTP server, as I've already said. Okay, so yeah, just make sure that you have this connect agent with the right agent, enable the call flow, make sure to save the agent stopped, and yeah, it should be, let's start it out. It may take a couple of seconds, 10 seconds, something like this, because it's also warming up the different connections so that the latency in the calls is much lower compared of how it should be. Okay, so yeah, this is just a little optimization trick I've just seen, and this will have to be fixed. That here in conversation history, the test conversations do not appear. They should be appearing, okay? And that would be the way to check out everything, okay? How to monitor everything, how to see evaluations, the different insights. So I'm sorry, I'm going to be showing you that in another video, how to monitor, how to improve everything. In suggestions, yeah, in performance app in suggestions, if the post-call evaluation does encounter any suggestion of improvement, it will appear here and it will tell you what to do, okay, to improve the call flow, to improve the agent, whatever. This video has been already extremely long, so probably I'm just going to be talking about monitoring and improving the agent and reliability and so on another video. However, call flows already provide the reliability of the agents quite a lot, because you can guide the agents to do whatever you need in a specific moment. Okay, so yeah, hope that has been helpful for users that are already customers. And if you are interested in Kallflow, you aren't still a customer, you have a website down below in the description. So yeah, see you tomorrow.